but you know you wanna touch my body. Could you dream about it? What's my name? Fat boy, get down. All over your computer screen. Call me, stalk me, baby. If I said I wanted you right now, would you wanna be with me? If I wanted to look you right now, I'm Fat Boy, get down.
This video is just for you taxpayers, and I want to say thank you very much, you motherfucking hater, tax-paying ass motherfucking douchebag, bitch having ass motherfucker. Thank you for paying taxes.
Stephen John Assanti, aka FatBoyGetDown, or the villain from the 1988 anime film Akira.
I need the help, please.
Has risen through the ranks of internet infamy to be placed in front of you today. It's very possible that you've come across this beach whale while surfing the deep web, but today you're going to get the whole story. From the time he conned his way into the Dr. Phil show, all the way to when Dr. Now laid the smackdown on him while he was on My 600 Pound Life. So get ready, because I'm about to tell you just how this fat boy got down. Real down. So Stephen grew up with his brother in Rhode Island. He was raised by a single father and didn't really have a good relationship with his mother because she wasn't really in the picture much, according to him. Stephen will often use her as a scapegoat for how things turned out in his life, even though the one brief appearance you do see of her, she seems pretty pleasant.
Aww.
Happy birthday to you. How old are you?
21.
Maybe if you blow it.
Oh, I can do it. Ready?
Yep.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Seeing as Stephen's been steadily raising in weight classes over the past few years, he's not really in a position to get out much. By the time he's 25, his mobility is extremely limited. All negativity aside, Stephen is a very outgoing person, and he even has a bit of a childlike innocence. He also has no shame when it comes to using his body to garner attention. So there's that too. Even though a lot of people found out about Stephen from his TV appearances on My 600 Pound Life and My Life in a Van, he's actually been around for a lot longer than that. Stephen's first major gig was on Dr. Phil, where he lied to the producers of the show to get on a miniseries that Dr. Phil was producing, called House of Hatred. Stephen, who was using his middle name as John for the show, stayed a few nights in a house with a bunch of other guests where he pretended that he hated skinny people. They made him participate in group sessions, and they even made him clean the house. This is where you get your first little tidbit of what his personality is like. And all this eventually ends when Dr. Phil calls him out for his manipulation.
So how are you doing?
I changed a lot. Being here, I'm eating less.
It's interesting that when I said, how are you doing, you started discussing your weight, when what you presumably came here for was the fact that you hated skinny people. You came in here and tried to run a con, tried to tell me what I want to hear. Then you sit on the phone, you made a complete idiotic act, disrespecting a very kind and decent black woman.
Which is a staple for Stephen, and you get to see a lot more of that later on. I guess Stephen liked the attention from the show because he wasted no time hitting the new YouTube scene where he actually gained a bit of a following.
What you gonna do with all that junk inside your trunk?
If you think about it, these are like the first musicals. Anyway, Stephen was hungry. Yes, for pizza, but for fame too. So he came up with a plan to audition for The Biggest Loser.
And I need all of your help. And I know you all believe in me. Alright, so let's make it happen together. On the right hand side in this description, you will see The Biggest Loser address. I want everybody to write to them and just like make them realize that I need help, and give them this video link. Do what you gotta do. Work your magic. The power
is in your hands.
Unfortunately, he never made the cut. But that didn't stop his rise in infamy, because Steven's real personality would soon show up in his online videos.
This video is just for you taxpayers, and I want to say thank you very much, you motherfucking hater, taxpaying ass motherfucking douchebag bitch having ass motherfucker.
And while Steven was also putting up videos, he was also putting down pizzas. And sadly, it eventually got to the point where Steven wasn't able to access his second-story apartment and was hospitalized on a weight loss program at a local hospital. After a few months, he lost 20 pounds. But his progress ended when he decided it was a good idea to order pizza when he's hospitalized because of his obesity. Steven was left unable to get back in his apartment, and he had no choice but to live in his father's van, traveling around from hospital to hospital trying to get help. This would eventually lead to him being on a local news network.
33-year-old Stephen Assanti says his eating addiction led him here, the trunk of his father's SUV. He had no place to go.
After his media appearance, he inevitably caught the attention of the TLC network, and they jumped on the chance to feature Steven and his family on not one, but 3 different episodes of My 600-Pound Life, which Steven was actually 800 pounds when he started. So they packed Steven in a trailer and towed him to Houston to go through the process of qualifying for gastric bypass surgery. But it's not all pizza and meatballs for our hero Steven, because Dr. Now spills the beans on Steven's opioid addiction, something that will continue to plague him for months to come. It doesn't take long for Steven's narcissistic personality to come to light. He constantly bugs and harasses the nurses, doesn't follow his eating plan, and even goes to the extent to wet himself out of spite. Everyone's already fed up with Steven, and we're like 10 minutes into the Assanti miniseries, so you can imagine just how this is going to go. And like you can imagine, they give him a warning. And he's good for like a day, and then goes right back to harassing and belittling the staff, leading to a confrontation between him and Dr. Now. They're keeping him in treatment, but Steven has to find an apartment to live in because the staff doesn't want to deal with him. Despite ordering a large pizza his first day alone, he actually starts to get a bit more mobile. During this time, Steven has a new PSW worker that's working with him, aiding in his weight loss. And they actually have a decent relationship considering Steven's manipulative behavior. But when Steven misses his 6-month checkup, and Princess, his PSW, finds out that he's been doctor shopping at different ERs, she informs Dr. Now and they make Steven go to medical detox. Steven's drug addiction really comes to light here. Steven would use his leg as a way to get pain medication, and then he would abuse his medication and go to another hospital and repeat the process. During this time, it's revealed by Dr. Now that Steven has been basically to every ER in the area to maintain his med addiction. When Steven gets out of detox and gets back to his apartment, him and Princess end up getting in a confrontation, and Princess tells Steven that his medication isn't covered by his health insurance. As it continues, it becomes more apparent that Steven's having a really rough month. He's gained weight, he's picking his hair, and when he meets with Dr. Now at the hospital, the doctor's conclusion is that Steven can't do this on his own. And he admits him in basically a last-ditch effort to save his life. And like always, the good doctor lays into him again. Fast track a month, and Steven has actually had really good progress considering it's him. He's lost 80 pounds, and he's good enough health to be discharged. This whole process has been draining on Steven's father's bank account. So in an attempt to save money, they look for a cheaper apartment for Steven. So because of Steven's mobility, they needed a golf cart to get him into the apartment to look at it. And it only really takes a few moments for tragedy to strike.
Oh! Oh!
You alright?
Oh no! Oh God! No!
I'm just kidding, they eventually got him up. And it isn't long before his new apartment looks just like his old one. When Steven goes for his 10-month checkup, the doctor informs him that he's gained weight. Rips into him for doctor shopping again. And takes him into a room to have a bit of a reality check, leading to Steven having what seems like a brief realization. And it would be brief, because even though he made a small attempt at first, he soon fell back into old habits. We're now 14 months into Steven's weight loss journey, and he misses another appointment. He ends up calling an ambulance trying to manipulate the system yet again to get more meds. But unfortunately for Steven, Dr. Now meets him at the emergency room. Dr. Now is getting really pissed at this point and brings Steven in for a chat. It's pretty apparent that Steven's high right now, which leads Dr. Now to threaten to cut off his medical insurance. The worst part is he makes Steven leave the hospital, and the ambulance isn't authorized to take him either. And in typical Assanti fashion, he freaks out, saying he's going to contact the media. But Dr. Now calls his bluff, and seeing as Steven's insurance company won't pay for his travel home, he has to get his dad to pay for it. Even though Steven's been constantly pulling this shit for over a year, they still kept him in the program. And when he makes his final visit to Dr. Now, we're told that Steven's basically hopeless, and that there's no way he's going to be able to do this on his own. So they're going to go ahead and give him a gastric sleeve, which is a little different from the actual gastric bypass surgery, but the gastric sleeve will allow him to hopefully lose enough weight to be able to qualify for the gastric bypass. Now, even though this is the end of Steven's time on TV, he's not quite done yet. So you'll find his videos on YouTube, but his main media outlet is definitely Facebook. He live streams over 1,000 people and answers questions and just tries to milk his infamy from the show. He also has a habit of immediately deleting his live streams. But let's be real, just like the image of him dancing is burned into your memory, same goes for a video on the internet. Once it's out there, there's not much you can do about it. Either way, Steven's content does answer some questions people have. Like, did he get surgery? Did he lose weight? Is he still addicted to pain meds? And well, luckily for you, I've got those answers and more. So Steven did eventually get his gastric bypass surgery after all, because frankly, Dr. Now takes no L's. And as a result, Steven did lose a significant amount of weight. He's currently sitting around the 600 pound mark. Seeing as he did get a pretty serious operation, he was prescribed pain medication as a result. There are videos of him showing off a fentanyl patch, which is somewhat troubling if you ask me, but I can't say for sure if Steven broke his addiction yet. All jokes aside, I truly hope he does. His internet activity has evolved from straight shock value to more of a Chris Chan performance art style.
All veils are misty, streets are blue. I'm in the...
But whatever works for him. He also has a girlfriend. But the internet is split on whether she's just a catfish, but it looks like she may be legitimate after all. And Steven, I salute you, good sir, because even though she's like a hard 6, you're a 1, so that's a big leap up the ladder. But besides that, there's not much else to the Steven Assanti story. If you're still interested, there's his brother's channel where he shows what it's like living with Steven, but I'm assuming you have a good idea if you've watched this long. Anyway, drop a comment down below and tell me what your favorite Assanti moment is. And make sure to sub to see the next documentary.
I love your precious heart.